Before getting into the main topic of this video, there's something I briefly wanted to discuss. I finally watched Dragon Ball Daima, so I wanted to make a video about it, but two things stopped me from doing this. Because of some of its contradictions with the Dragon Ball Super timeline, it likely would have had to be its own one-off video, as my interpretation is that Daima is a different continuity, sort of like how some people interpret GT. Anyway, with some of the changes that would have happened, Daima would have been cut very short, to the point that it wasn't long enough for its own part. Normally, Goma arrived and confronted Dende for the Dragon Balls, but since Goku is the Guardian here, things would go a lot differently. Degusu wouldn't be able to strike down Goku like he did to Dende. Instead, Goku would easily be able to thwart Goma and Degusu by defeating them before they could even summon Shenron. So, they are sent fleeing as they get back into their ship and return to the Demon Realm. As for what happens to them there, it's hard to say, but without the heroes intervening, I could see either Degusu or Dr. Aransu succeeding in overthrowing Goma, though I think Degusu doing this is the more likely option, since Goma didn't seem to suspect his betrayal beforehand. Also, assuming he still had someone get the evil third eye for him, it would theoretically give him the power to defeat Goma and any other challengers. We don't know what his plans were after becoming the Supreme Demon King, so that's as far as I can go with talking about him. Regardless, with Daima ending that early in this scenario, I'm not able to make a separate video about it. As I said earlier, though, I'm considering Daima a separate continuity from the main series, so none of what I just said really matters for the main topic of this part. Now that I've discussed Daima, I'm going to get onto the main topic of this video. After the defeat of Babidi, assuming Shin still visits the Earth at some point, I could see Gohan and Sarai training with him. I think Shin would have offered to train Gohan as a reward for his help in defeating Buu, and it would likely be Gohan's idea to ask if Sarai could come along since they normally train together. Shin would agree, so they would go to the Sacred World of the Kai to train, when they don't have school. Of course, I still see them trying to use the Z-Sword during their training and accidentally breaking it, so the old Kai is released. He would unlock their potential, so both Gohan and Sarai get the ultimate form. Other than that, I don't think much will come from their training with Shin, as I don't see them wanting to stay away from Earth long enough to train with him to the same extent that Future Trunks did in the manga. After they return to Earth, 4 years soon pass, and unbeknownst to the heroes, the God of Destruction Beerus wakes up. With his attendant Whis in tow, they visit a planet, and Beerus demands for their best food. The food ends up being too greasy for Beerus' liking, but he liked their drink, so he only destroys half of the planet before going on his way. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Goten has the idea to get Sarai a wedding gift, and with the help of Shamiz, they get her water from a hot spring. As for Goku and Chi-Chi, they would remember that it's Bulma's birthday, so they don't go to King Kai's planet. On the Sacred World of the Kai, Shin and Old Kai sense that another planet was destroyed by Beerus. Then out on the planet called Majin, a dinosaur attacks several of the inhabitants until their leader arrives and defeats it. Whis then arrives and asks for the dinosaur so that Beerus can eat it, but even after speaking in the chief's language, it still refuses. Beerus soon arrives and the alien chief transforms, attacking him shortly afterwards. All of his attacks are stopped with one finger. Even the fire breath the chief used against Beerus was to no avail. This caused Beerus to decide he no longer wanted the dinosaur meat. Back on the Sacred World of the Kai, they were having tea as they noticed Planet Majina's destruction, and the old Kai tells the Supreme Kai that this is Beerus' doing. Back with Beerus, he was watching the destruction of the planet, and he remembers his dream about the Super Saiyan God. On their way back home, Beerus continues remembering about his dream. Back on the Sacred World of the Kai again, the old Kai explains to Shin the role of Beerus. This time, however, they don't worry about trying to prevent Goku from fighting Beerus. Since he is more responsible and respectful in this timeline, he wouldn't outright challenge Beerus like that even though he still likes to fight. Without Goku being on King Kai's planet, King Kai never has to telepathically contact them to inform them of Goku's location. Then on Beerus' planet, he asks the Oracle Fish about the prophecy she gave him 39 years ago. At first, she can't remember, but after he threatens to reduce her number of daily feedings, she remembers her prophecy about the Super Saiyan God. Because of the name, Beerus assumes that it's some kind of deity, but Beerus also remembers how he ordered Frieza to destroy planet Vegeta. Regardless, he then has Whis catch him up on everything about Frieza and if there were any remaining Saiyans. Without the heroes having fought Frieza in this timeline, the most notable thing Whis can mention that they did is stop the reawakening of Buu. Whis then tells him about there being one Saiyan that lives on Earth, and that he has 2 children as well. Beerus decides to go to Earth, but before doing that, there's something else he wants to take care of first. Since Frieza is still around, and he originally planned to destroy him after waking up, he would go to do that first. So he and Whis leave his planet to go find Frieza. Obviously, when they find him, he is easily destroyed by Beerus. It's hard to say for sure what he'd do with King Cold, but I can see Beerus destroying him as well, so he likely finds him and destroys him, too. Now that they are destroyed, Beerus and Whis make their way towards Earth. Speaking of Earth, without Goku off training, he would arrive in time to set sail with the others on Bulma's cruise ship. While everyone else is enjoying the party, Goten and Shamiz go to check out the bingo tournament prizes. Shamiz eventually unplugs the security system and shows Goten the grand prize, the Dragon Balls. Meanwhile, on a nearby island, the Pilaf gang was digging for treasure. When Bulma's ship nears the island, they see the Dragon Balls on their radar, so they make their way towards the ship. Their boat sinks on the way there, but Goten and Shamiz rescue them by throwing down a rope ladder. After they get on the ship, the Pilaf gang is treated to a meal by them. Beerus and Whis arrive on Bulma's ship earlier than usual since they didn't have to go to King Kai's planet first. They might briefly partake in the festivities and try the food. Without Buu being there, Beerus finally gets to try pudding. Regardless, Beerus would confront Goku early on, but he would be much more respectful in this timeline when greeting the God of Destruction. With Beerus being a deity, he'd also be able to notice that Goku has God Ki. So, Goku having God Ki would at least be somewhat of a good sign for him. This would be where Whis explains to everyone what God Ki is. Anyway, as usual, Beerus would ask him about the Super Saiyan God. In this timeline, Goku would have no idea what that is, as he has never even heard of the term Super Saiyan, though he could mention that he has access to some transformations if the God of Destruction wanted to see them. Since Beerus has come there for a fight, and there's a chance of one of his forms being a Super Saiyan God, he'd agree to this. He still might make his usual threat about destroying the Earth if he doesn't get a good fight, in order to motivate Goku to try harder. As to not harm any spectators below, they start with flying high above the ship. Since Goku normally likes testing the power of his opponents, he'd probably start out in his base form. He still requests Beerus to not hold back, but when he does try attacking him, he wouldn't be able to land any hits on Beerus. Even when he goes into his Super Saiyan form, Beerus still effortlessly dodges his attacks. It's highly likely Goku would have achieved the Super Saiyan 2 form by now, so he transforms into it next. In this form, he still can't land a hit on Beerus, and even his Kamehameha fails against him. While we did see Vegeta access Super Saiyan 3 in Daima, I don't think Goku would have done so. Instead of continuously focusing on the Super Saiyan form, I think he would have worked on improving the Super Saiyan God form. So, he goes into the Super Saiyan God form next. This might be when Beerus realizes this is the Super Saiyan God he was looking for, as he'd noticed the vast difference between this form and the other forms Goku already shown him. At first, their fight likely goes the same, minus the part about Goku having to get used to the Super Saiyan God form since he already has. But he also might do slightly better than usual due to being stronger than usual, but it isn't enough to matter. So, their fight essentially goes the same as it did in the anime up until they're above the Earth and Goku normally reverted to the Super Saiyan form. Instead of reverting to that form, as he has better control of the God form, he stays in it. However, he decides to take it up a notch and show Beerus something else. While I didn't mention this in the last part, I think he would have found a form beyond Super Saiyan God at the time of the Buu saga. I only didn't have him show it off in that saga since he didn't have a reason to use a form that strong back then. Normally this would be the Super Saiyan Blue form, but it's possible it might be something slightly different here. From what we know about Super Saiyan Blue, it was achieved by a mortal combining the Super Saiyan God form with the Super Saiyan form. In this timeline, though, Goku actually has a position as a deity, since he is the guardian of Earth. So, it's possible that he achieved the Super Saiyan Rosé form instead, since Blue and Rosé are essentially the same transformation, the difference just being if the user is a mortal or deity. They're likely the same, power-wise. After turning into this form, since I now know that his previous form was called Super Saiyan God, he could decide to call this one something simple like Super Saiyan Pink, as I don't see him choosing something pretentious like Super Saiyan Rosé. Regardless, he blitzes forward, briefly knocking Beerus around with a barrage of attacks. When he regains his footing, Beerus starts to lash out with attacks of his own and block or parry Goku's when he can. While we haven't seen Goku do this before, he attempts to use a Keyblade, sort of like Vegeto's instead of being like Goku Black's. He uses it to slice through some of Beerus' Ki blasts, and he even manages to cut Beerus' cheek with it, though he then tries to use his Kamehameha, and it seems to work at first, but Beerus soon bats it aside. Beerus then starts to use more of his strength to counter Goku, as he uses his own barrage of blows to send him flying. Even when Goku tries to retaliate with a kick, Beerus catches him and sends him hurling down towards Earth. Goku manages to steady himself so he doesn't fall back to the planet, and Beerus floats above him, saying that Goku is running out of tricks. He reveals that he has one more up his sleeve to show the God of Destruction. In the actual timeline, it didn't even take Goku a year to learn how to use the Kaioken on top of Super Saiyan Blue. In this timeline, he had 4 years to try and figure out how to do so. He likely noticed Super Saiyan Pink being a common enough form to allow stacking the Kaioken on top of it, though he was also likely inspired by Chi-Chi continuing to use the Kaioken, so that gave him the idea to try it as well. Regardless, after starting to use the Kaioken, he manages to catch Beerus off guard with another barrage of attacks. They soon begin to clash again, sending off even stronger shockwaves than they did earlier. As the fight goes on, Goku begins to realize that even this level of power isn't enough. He decides to crank the Kaioken up as high as he's willing to right now, which is to the Kaioken times 10. He then rushes at Beerus, punching him in the jaw and sending him back. When he tries to retaliate, Goku vanishes above him, sending him flying downwards. Before Beerus can recover, Goku tries using a Kamehameha with all of the energy he can muster. Beerus is forced to block it, but he is also taking delight in having this good of a fight. They soon begin to trade blows, but Goku's Kaioken starts to flicker as the toll is catching up to his body. After his fist collides with Beerus's one last time, the Kaioken fades and his energy plummets. Even his pink form fades, as Goku starts to fall towards the earth. However, with one last yell, he forces a surge of ki through his battered body. He goes into the Super Saiyan form, and Beerus is surprised to see him being this persistent to keep fighting. Regardless, with how depleted Goku's energy is, all of the attacks he tries are easily swatted away or parried by Beerus. Even when he uses the Kamehameha, Beerus uses his Spear of Destruction in return, so Goku has to use the last bits of his energy to overpower it. Goku then falls to his base form, and with a single flick to the head, Beerus sends him plummeting towards the earth. Chi-Chi catches Goku as he falls back down to Bulma's cruise ship. Beerus lands not long after him, and he then says something about keeping his word and destroying the earth. Goku tries to beg him to stop, but when Beerus charges the blast, he fires it and misses. As usual, Beerus fell asleep, but Whis says that he's gone a bit soft due to spending most of his time sleeping. Whis then leaves with Beerus in tow, and after they're far enough away, he asks him how long he is going to pretend to sleep. Back on Bulma's ship, Goku's body is in an even worse state after this fight, since he used the Kaioken. As for the Pilaf gang, they were likely still on the ship, though I still assume they wouldn't get the Dragon Balls. Even though they weren't used, for a gag moment, I'm going to say that they were so distracted by the buffet that they didn't even notice the bingo tournament happening. So, one of the heroes ended up winning the grand prize of the Dragon Balls, and they'd obviously have no chance to take the Dragon Balls from them. They still leave the cruise ship and row off into the sunset, vowing to get the Dragon Balls next time.